is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
Welcome back, everyone, to It's a Grim Life, the daily vlog of the Grim Life Collective. Question for you. Does that tree look like a hanging tree to you? Well, if it does, you are wrong. In fact, it is just a typical tree. I don't even know what kind of tree it is, but it is just a normal tree here in Oakland Cemetery in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia. That is not a hanging tree. In fact, it is pretty darn small, and if you try to hang somebody from it, the branches would probably break. The people that you tried to hang would probably live. It would fall to the ground and probably get up and run away. I don't know about that, but that's what I would do if somebody tried to hang me and the branches broke. But even though that is not a hanging tree, where I am currently standing, not too far from this spot, right there, see my shoes? A hanging actually took place in this area. Right now I am along the south wall of Oakland Cemetery, and it runs right alongside of Memorial Drive. Memorial Drive that way, Memorial Drive that way. Amy and I both live on Memorial Drive. Well, we have a home on Memorial Drive. We don't actually live on the street, which would kind of suck because there are a lot of homeless people here in Atlanta. Not so much where I am right now, but there are tons of homeless people. I do not want to be one of those homeless people, and neither does Amy. We like our home. We love living here in Atlanta, and Oakland Cemetery is a place that we come to a lot. There are so many graves here. The cemetery itself is absolutely beautiful. It's a southern cemetery. Right now, where I am, it is pretty plain, it is pretty bare, it is pretty barren, but it's a cemetery. Towards the front of the cemetery, the main gate, it is lush and filled with gardens, and it's just beautiful, it's picturesque, it's historic. There's famous people buried here, most notably Margaret Mitchell, the author of Gone with the Wind. But that is not why we are here today. This wall that's behind me, more importantly, that monument is why we are here today. Now, the Civil War was a major war. I mean, you know the Civil War. Everybody knows the Civil War. If you don't know the Civil War, you have been living underneath a rock, and wow. But anyhow, during the Civil War between the North and the South, I say up and down because, you know, that's what you think about in a map. During the Civil War, there was a group of men called Andrew's Raiders, and they were hired by the North as spies to come down south across enemy territory, steal a train known as the General, and take the train north. They hijacked it, they kidnapped it, and the main goal was, as they traveled north, they were going to destroy all of the bridges and railroad tracks that was behind them for the sole purpose to cut off movement of the Confederate Army. The supplies, medical stuff, food, weapons, anything like that that can hinder the Confederacy so the Union could win. They hired spies. Back then in the Civil War, spies were used. Even today, spies. It's weird to think about. Well, eventually, Andrew's Raiders, the men, were caught. They had a trial, and they were brought here to this area across the street from me, and they were hung. Not by that tree. No, it's not a hanging tree. Across the street, about 280 feet from where I currently stand, they were hung. Their lives were taken. These traitors to the Confederacy, these spies of the North, they were hung, and they're not buried here in the cemetery, which you would think would make sense if they were hung here. And just take them, cut them down, and bury them in the plot, and put a stone over them, and say, hey, these guys are spies. We don't like these guys. But no. After they were hung, they were taken elsewhere, and they were buried. But there is a marker here, the marker that I showed before, that says these guys were hung near this area. Now, Memorial Drive, the street that runs along the south wall, used to be called Fair Street back in the Civil War. And the reason being, everything that you see over there, from that high-rise to that business that's over there, there's houses down the street, that all used to be open grounds. It was fairgrounds, hence Fair Street. It was a place where traveling fairs would happen, local fairs, farmers markets, as if they even called them farmers markets. But that's how that street got its name. During the Civil War, it became a bit of a makeshift hospital. Not a bit of a makeshift hospital, it actually became a makeshift hospital for the Confederacy. And as soldiers died, what they did was they carried the bodies across the street to the cemetery that's behind me and buried them here. Now, Oakland Cemetery is not a military cemetery, but it does have 7,000, roughly 7,000 Confederate soldiers and a sprinkle or two, jackhammer, and a sprinkle or two of Union soldiers buried here as well. But it is, the majority of it is a Confederate cemetery, as well as other people, notable people, like I said, Margaret Mitchell, famous golfer, and a bunch of other people that are buried here. But it is not a military cemetery, but there is enough people from the military that are buried here for it to be considered one if they wanted to, but it's not. But yeah. So across the street, this marker says, hey, these buildings weren't here. There was people that were buried here, not buried, that were hung here. Andrews Raiders, traitors of the South, spies of the North, stole a train, went north with it, got caught, didn't really accomplish what they set out to do. They were hung, they were died, they were cut down, taken elsewhere and buried instead of in this cemetery, which you would think that's probably why they didn't do it, because they weren't Confederate soldiers. They weren't from the South. So why bury them here with the rest of their dead, their honored dead? But here's an interesting piece of information. Those spies of the North, those traitors of the Confederacy, they were the very first people to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor in the history of the United States. Yes, spies, actual spies, traitors to some, heroes to some, but spies were the very first people to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. And that's a big deal, especially today with all the people in the military. The Medal of Honor is the highest honor that you could possibly receive. And back during the Civil War, spies for the North were the very first people to receive that honor. And I'm walking around simply because the sun is just really bright, and I'm trying not to shy away from it like a vampire out in the daylight, but it's just really bright. Anywho, thank you again for watching another strange, historical, grim history lesson of the Grim Life Collective. Till tomorrow, have a good day.
They call me a calamity man, but I'm trying as hard as I can to keep the bad luck away from me. I'm doomed to win the night, filled with misery.